Have you ever seen something so bizarre that it makes you question whether you actually saw it at all? I did. I saw something in the woods near Gunpowder National Park more than once. It made me question pretty much everything. Not reality exactly, but what people believe is real and isn't. Most people wouldn't believe what I saw, but most people also believe that the world was the center of the universe at one time, I suppose. But the point is, there's more to this world than what anyone says, and I know it firsthand. A friend of mine and his family used to go out to Gunpowder when we were in high school, and more than once I got to tag along. We'd go out there with some snacks or soda, or pop for my Midwestern friends. We'd go down to this river and swim, and jump off this big rock into the water. It was a lot of fun, and outside of a handful of troubling things, I have a lot of fond memories of being out there. One time, my friend's dad actually saved all our lives when, out of nowhere, he shouted at us to get out of the water. We all did, thinking it was some kind of animal. But the instant my friend's brother's foot was out of the river, a torrent of rushing water surged towards us, and the only reason it didn't carry us away was because we were all up on that big rock. His dad explained that he'd seen the water level slowly start to rise, which indicated a flash flood. And that was the first day that I actually saw it. After my friend's dad explained what had happened, we started to pack up. Something pulled my attention upriver, and I saw this black shape jumping between the trees. It was green and brown with fur and leaves all over it. It was almost like camouflage. In fact, that's what I thought it was at first. A hunter who'd been near the river and had to jump up into the trees to get away from the water. I remember standing there, fascinated with this creature or person, and then suddenly it looked right at me. My heart jumped out of my chest. Its eyes were red, and not glowing like eye shine, but bright blood red. So bright red that I could see it from well over 30 yards away. It looked at me like it knew I was watching it, and I cursed loudly. Holy shit! When my friends asked me what was wrong, I had turned to him to tell him, but when I looked back, the thing was gone. I remember at first telling him that I thought I saw a bear, which kind of set him on edge. We finished packing up quickly and left, especially since there wasn't going to be any more swimming that day. Now, I never mentioned that experience to anyone since it had happened, though I'm not really sure why. It's not like that I worried that people wouldn't believe me. I never really cared about that kind of thing. I think I just felt like I wasn't supposed to talk about it, which in and of itself was an odd way to feel about something that had happened to me. So years passed before I went back to that park, and this time it was me bringing someone else to that same swimming spot. Me and a girlfriend at the time spent an early October afternoon hanging out, telling stories, swimming, and just generally having a good time. She packed a picnic with all my favorites, and I brought a big portable boombox CD player and some discs to listen to. It was actually a pretty great day, mostly. While this time there wasn't a flash flood or even an animal sighting, my girlfriend kind of freaked out when she felt the water near her legs get warm suddenly, which is a strong indication that a water snake could be swimming there. The water snakes in that region weren't venomous, nor were they prone to biting, unless threatened. But once she'd gotten out of the water, she was kind of done, and even I didn't want to go back in after that. And so we packed up and started to leave. It was the packing up that triggered the memory. I was putting the remainder of the bag of Fritos away, and I laughed because my friend's family from that time before had kind of always given me a hard time because I ate so many of them. I laughed and thought that some habits just die hard, but remembering them all made me think about the last time I'd been to that place. I still remember looking up as though I thought of the creature, and there it was, holding on to a branch with its hands while it stood on another, almost like a monkey in a cartoon. It was closer than it had been the last time, and I saw it far more clearly that time around. It was covered in fur, and now dead leaves, and its form was vaguely female. It cocked its head to the side as it looked at me, as though realizing either that I was there or that I could see it. The eyes of this thing, those bright red dots in the distance, they filled me with a bizarre combination of dread, excitement, and somehow nostalgia. It was like I was reliving that whole day over again, but knew that this moment was coming again too. I was oddly happy that it was still there, even though the thing scared the shit out of me. I couldn't tell you why. My ex's hand on my elbow tore my eyes away from that creature, and sure enough, when I looked back, it was just gone again. And whether because I couldn't share what I'd seen or because I was sad that it was gone, I found that I had a feeling of loss. We left, and soon after that, my girlfriend and I broke up. She was going off to college in another state, and I couldn't go with her because my family needed my help financially. I didn't go back to that swimming hole ever again, but I did go hiking at Gunpowder Park with a friend about 2 years later. We were skirting the river over to the north of the swimming hole, and we're just going to do a short hour or so hike through the woods on a known trail. This time it was really, really scary, because despite the fact that the trail was less off the beaten path than the watering hole, I got lost. I was telling my friend about how I used to swim in the river, and was about to actually tell him about having seen the creature, when I turned around at one point, and he was just gone. I called out to him, but I didn't get an answer. When I looked down at my feet, I wasn't on a trail, and suddenly nothing around me looked familiar. I tried to backtrack and retrace my steps, but I just kept getting more and more lost, which was frightening in itself because I had seen him only a few minutes before, and I usually don't get lost. I remember slightly panicking then, and I started shouting loudly, calling out for my friend in a manic voice, but still not getting an answer. I tried to remember to not just run in a direction that I thought led out, and just try to gather my senses and think. I tried to use the sky to tell my direction, but it was very overcast and I couldn't see the sun. I tried using the phone to figure out my GPS, but I had no signal, and I kicked myself for not bringing a damned compass. And that's when I saw the cabin. As I scanned the trees, trying to figure out how the hell to get back onto the trail, my eyes passed over something large and somewhat colorful. I turned to get a better look, and it was as though the trees had parted to show me the way. In the distance was an old, quaint log cabin with a red door. I remember gasping when I saw it, because it was so unexpected. I never heard anyone say anything about a cabin out here before, but there it was. As I stared at the structure curiously, I detected movement in the trees above it, and when I looked, my soul kind of left my body, as they say. Up in the trees, above the cabin, hanging from a branch by her legs, was the creature I'd seen before at the river. She stared at me again with those penetrating red eyes, and I completely froze. I couldn't believe I was seeing this again, and that strange feeling of a longing for the past and a fear of what was right in front of me welled heavy in my chest. I stared into her eyes and couldn't look away, even as a set of sharp, stained fangs sprouted into existence from out of the fur near the spot where I'd expected her mouth to be. She hissed at me loudly and made a very, very strange howl that set my eyes wide. And then the sudden feeling of a hand on my shoulder made me jump clear out of my skin, and I turned around and almost punched my friend right in his stupid face. He looked really worried and demanded to know what the hell was wrong with me and why I didn't answer as many calls. I remember staring at him, dumbfounded, and then turning to look back at the cabin and the woman, but they were gone. Moreover, the area I was in looked suddenly familiar, and I realized that I could easily find the trail from there. I apologized to my friend and just told him that I'd gotten distracted. We had a mostly enjoyable hike after that, got some lunch afterwards, but the whole time I just kept thinking about whatever that thing was, and the cabin. Was it hers? Why did I see her again? How had I gotten so lost, but still wound up close enough to the trail to have gotten back on it? How had she remembered and zeroed in on me after years between encounters? But most of all, what did she want from me? It was that last question that occupied my thoughts the most, and frankly, continues to do so. As I went over all of it in my mind later on, and not just that encounter, but the other two as well, I realized that while I'd initially seen her actions as threatening and carrying a sense of warning, what she was actually trying to express was the exact opposite. With each sighting, she'd gotten closer and seemed more interested. She wasn't trying to tell me to leave. She was trying to get me to get closer to her, or to come closer to me herself. I wasn't quite sure which was more worrisome, because I don't think I have the ability to avoid her. Case in point, the last time I saw her was as I drove through Gunpowder on my way to a job interview out in Bel Air, MD. The densely packed trees are almost hypnotic for drivers in that part of the country, and can make you sleepy, even if you've gotten plenty of sleep. And so, on long drives, I tend to stop and stretch my legs a bit, then get back on the road, just to be safe. But I remember pulling off the road into the big, busy rest stop and getting excited because they'd opened a Caribou Coffee in there, which was my favorite. As I got out of my car, I noticed the trees again, and how dark the woods beyond the tree line seemed. I was suddenly put in the mind for getting lost in the woods while hiking, and that same familiar mix of anticipation and longing sprang forth suddenly. My eyes were pulled to a particular spot along the perimeter of the rest stop grounds, where the trees seemed the darkest. And there, crouched on a branch, with one clawed hand gripping the tree trunk it was attached to, was her. She stared right at me, and for a moment, it was as though all of the people around had disappeared, and the distance between us vanished as well. She looked at me, her head tilting to the side in fascination, and what I can only describe as a kind of wonder. She seemed almost as excited to see me as I was to see her. And we sat there for a long time, just gazing at one another and letting the rest of the world drift away. Now I realize that while I didn't then and still don't know even now what exactly it was, I wanted something from her now. I kinda needed her, at least in that moment. You see, I needed to be closer to her, not under my own control, but being pulled by this need. I took a step towards her, and I almost died. As I stepped away from where I'd been standing, I heard a loud car horn out of nowhere right beside me, and then the squeak of quickly braking tires. I remember jerking backwards and turning to see an SUV with a very angry woman in it, flipping me off. I shook my head in confusion as she angrily drove off, honking her horn again. For a moment, I had no idea where I was or what was happening, but I slowly came back to the understanding that I was still in the parking lot of the rest stop, and had almost walked right in front of a moving vehicle. I tried to make my mind focus, but I just couldn't. In hindsight, the best way that I could describe it is that it was like my mind was trying to be hyper-focused on too many things at the same time, and it just kind of glitched out. Now, once I'd finally shaken off the confusion, I panicked as I realized that I'd lost track of the red-eyed woman in the woods. When I looked in the direction where she'd been, not only was she gone, but the trees there seemed different from before. I remember suddenly feeling almost depressed when I saw that she wasn't there anymore. This time, it wasn't just melancholy brought on by nostalgia. I sincerely and desperately missed her, and trust me, just believe me on this, I know how that sounds, but I can't deny my feelings, nor would I wish to. I missed her, and I still do. I also have no idea how long I'd been standing there staring across that parking lot, but it couldn't have been more than an hour, because I wasn't late for my interview. I did, however, totally screw it up, because I just kept getting distracted thinking about her the whole time. It's just, how can anything in my life matter more after these experiences? How can anything be more important than knowing that she's actually real? Now, I don't know who, or more aptly what my mystery forest woman is, but I've speculated on that ad nauseum. At first, I generally thought that she was a vampire, but we were out in broad daylight all 4 times I saw her. Then I wondered if she was a skinwalker, but I never really sensed hatred from her, only danger. She also didn't look like an animal, at least not one that I'd ever seen. I think that she might be some kind of fae or forest spirit, maybe a witch, but hell, she could just be a ghost for all I know, haunting the woods of Gunpowder Falls. The truth is, I've been obsessing over her for years, and I still very much do now. I mean, I'm sitting down to write this out and share it with strangers because I need someone else to know. I need someone to understand. I can't stop thinking about her, even when I'm with other people. I don't see her everywhere, but it's more like I expect to. No, well, that's not the truth. You see, the truth is that I want to see her. It's not like she was particularly beautiful, you understand? Though she was pretty, I think. Maybe it's just more that she's just a complete mystery. I feel special having seen her and having drawn her interest, even though I don't even know her name or anything about her. But I want to give her a name. I worry about doing that as well for 2 reasons. The first is that it's said that if you're experiencing anything paranormal, to avoid naming it, because it only intensifies. And the second is, I don't want her to be angry with me if I pick a name that she doesn't like. I don't ever want her to be angry with me, but I'm not sure why, and it isn't just because I'm terrified of her. I think it might be that I don't want to run the risk of not ever seeing her again. That would be the worst thing to ever happen to me. If I never, ever see her again, but especially if I knew that I wouldn't. If I didn't know, I'd still have hope that I might see her again. Sometimes I wonder if she's just not a figment of my imagination, or a manifestation of some kind of mental illness. But I don't think that's the case. I don't know why. I just truly believe what I saw and that she's real. So it's been a year or so since the last time I saw her, and the other night I had a pretty intense and crazy dream about her, which is what prompted me to write this whole thing out in the first place. In the dream, I asked her for her name, and a voice screamed, "Tithorea," as she lunged at me. I woke up so suddenly and in such a panic that I broke my bedside lamp. I was so messed up from that dream. If I wasn't already unemployed, I'd have taken a sick day. Tithorea, Tithorea, Tithorea. You see, I've never heard it before, but Google said that it's the name of some kind of butterfly, which is appropriate, I guess. It's a pretty name though, so it suits her, and now at least I have something to call her. I'm confused about the dream though, because the way she came at me, it was intense. It was like she wanted me or something from me in a really primal way. I felt like I was being hunted the whole time. And honestly, I think I liked it. I've decided, even as I'm writing this for someone to read, to go on a camping trip into Gunpowder and to try to see her again. This time, though, I won't take anyone with me. I don't have a girlfriend, which is good, but I also stopped talking to the guy I went hiking with. Kind of right after that trip, come to think of it. So there won't be any distractions or getting pulled out of seeing her again. I could focus. I have a good tent, a decent sleeping bag, and I'm going to buy enough supplies for a couple of weeks or so. I'm going into the woods, set up a camp, and just wait for her to find me. And it shouldn't take long since she seems to show up when I'm thinking about her. Frankly, I'm surprised that she's not appeared to me in other places, just based on how much I've been thinking about her. I often imagine her hanging outside of my window at night and trying to get me to come out to her. It always makes me open the window, but she's never there. So I guess, wish me luck. Right or wrong, good or bad, life or death. Hell man, I'm doing this. I won't be stopped. Though it's not like there's anyone trying to stop me. I guess I'll tell you all about it when I get back. That is, if I get back. I'm not sure I really want to come back, but more importantly, I want whatever this is to intensify. I want to see her again. I just can't get her out of my head. I want to get lost in that hungry, curious gaze she cast on me a year ago. I want to find the cabin with the red door again, and this time, I want to go through that door and never, ever return.